Welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 97 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Giltack. Thanks for joining me again today on the podcast. We've got a lot to cover. It's going to be a long one. I'm going to talk to you about a personal issue that may limit the amount of time that I have for the CCFR coming up. If you're not interested in that, it's probably going to take about 9 or 10 minutes to kind of go through all that stuff. Just fast forward through. We're also going to unveil a new recruitment program / contest that was invented by our friend staffer Steve, the best staffer in the history of gun lobbying. So I'm going to tell you about that. Also, I'm going to bring on Wilson. We're going to talk about the CCFR election campaign. You've all been waiting to hear all about it and all the details. Well, we're going to tell you all about it and how you can help in that effort as well today. We're also going to talk about the CPC firearms platform, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to do the draw for the latest neon sign draw. The neon sign draw is a little bit late, and it's for the same reason I'm going to talk to you about in a second as well. But before we get started, let's talk about our sponsors, Vortex, the force of optics. So thanks to our great friends over at Vortex Canada for continuing to support the podcast. We couldn't do it without you. We truly appreciate it. You can check them out at vortexcanada.net. That's vortexcanada.net. And also, a huge thank you to our great friends over at the Saskatchewan Rivers chapter of Safari Club International. We truly appreciate their support as well. You can check out all their fantastic work at saskriversSCI.com. That's saskriversSCI.com. All right. So we have to have a bit of an uncomfortable conversation, as I mentioned. If you don't want to hear about this part and you just want to get back to the straight CCFR stuff, you can go forward about 9 minutes. That should get you there. Now, you guys may be aware that I don't talk about my personal life very, very often. And because I don't think it's really interesting to anybody. You know, you're here to hear about how we're going to save our guns, and I don't blame you. And that's why I'm here too. And I just not somebody that likes to air everything, right? Not that that's a bad thing. It's just how I am. And there's something going on with me that I can't really keep to myself because I'm unable to do that. So I have throat cancer, and I'm just started treatment for it. So the backstory to that is 4 years ago, I got a CT scan, and I had an undetected cancerous tumor in my left kidney. And so I went to get the results from the CT. They wanted me to come in. So I'm like, oh, that's not very good, right? So I go in there, and they're like, we got bad news for you. You have a tumor in your left kidney the size of a peach. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's surprising. And they say, well, you're not in any pain or anything. I'm like, no, I feel great. In fact, I was in the best shape I had been since my late 30s. Like, I was in really good shape at that point. And so I'm like, well, what do we do? You know, like, do I get my affairs in order? They're like, no. We're just going to take your left kidney. I'm like, when's this going to happen? They're like, 2 weeks. I was like, okay. So I had my left kidney removed, and I never told anybody about it because I don't want to. And I was able to get through all that stuff. So I was only really in a lot of pain. It was quite a painful operation, but I was in pain for about 2 weeks. And I think I was gone right before the surgery, and then I was sort of back. I was able to work right about 2.5 weeks after I got the surgery. So there really wasn't any reason to tell anybody about it, right? So I healed up, and everything was fine. I'm running on my spare. I still had a spare kidney, and as an individual, I was actually unaffected, right? I do everything I was doing before, and that one kidney I have really good kidney function, right? In fact, the doctors tell me I have kidney function comparable to people that have 2 kidneys, like right now. So that's good. I'm very fortunate that way. So about 3.5 months ago, I noticed this lump on my neck. You guys may or may not, if you maybe had cancer or know somebody, you might have seen this, how kind of this whole area of my neck's kind of swollen. Well, it turns out it's throat cancer. So it was unrelated to my previous cancer. The doctors they're like, how did you get this? I'm like, why are you asking me? I don't know. I wasn't, eating cancerous stuff. Like, I don't know. So anyway, I developed that, and it's unrelated. through all the diagnostic stuff that I've had to go through. It's been going on for about 3 months. I've had to have a tonsillectomy, my right tonsil removed, which is kind of dangerous surgery, and they cauterize all the inside of your throat, like they burn it, right? Melt it basically, just so you don't bleed to death, because you shouldn't be getting tonsils out at my age, right? I'm 52 years old. And so that was extremely painful. But it was about 10 days of 24-hour pain. And then on day 10, day 11, it just stopped and it was fine. And so I was able to get and do a podcast and all the rest of that stuff. So I was able to kind of not discuss that with you. And then I went for a PET scan. Those are pretty crazy. Those of you who have gotten one of those before. And then I started radiation therapy at this past Monday, right? So it's been a week. And so before that, before I could take radiation, they wanted to pull all my wisdom. I had my wisdom teeth still because they weren't a problem. And so they yanked all those out. So that was 2 weeks ago. So it's been a bit of a journey. But anyway, the reason why I'm having to tell all you guys this stuff is because the therapy for throat cancer, I didn't have to have any other therapy with the kidney thing, but the therapy is radiation and chemotherapy. I declined the chemotherapy because the best chemotherapy drug increases your chances of being alive in 5 years by about 14%, and that's cisplatin, it's called. And with that drug, you have a 50% chance of having significant and irreversible hearing damage, and you have a 34% of having irreversible or even acute kidney damage, right? And I only have one kidney, and I don't want to live on dialysis. So if something happens to my kidney, I might as well be dead. So anyway, I made the decision not to get chemotherapy. I might be doing immunotherapy, but in Canada, unless you're terminal cancer almost, you don't get that paid for. You got to pay for it yourself. And it's $10,000 a treatment, and you need like 8 of them. So I'm going to work on that. Obviously you can imagine what an $80,000 bill would do, the kind of wrench it would throw into your life. It's the same thing with mine. So I'm working on that, but I think I might do that. But for now, I just opted to go with the radiation. And the reason why I'm telling you any of this stuff is when you go through radiation treatment for head and neck cancer, it can change the way that you look or a number of other things, right? So it's not really something that and it's not really like I was really hiding any cancer. I just didn't think that anyone needed to know that stuff, right? But now it's going to change a few things. So here's what they are. I may or may not, what I've come to understand about radiation treatment is everybody reacts to it differently. Everybody, no matter how big, small, gender, doesn't matter. Health, some people, elderly ladies, just cruise right through radiation therapy and they do really well. 250-pound, 28-year-old dude has to be hospitalized after 4 weeks. So it's all over the place. I've talked to people that said, I talked to a guy right when I first went to the cancer agency, and he said, I did the chemo and the radiation. I'm doing as much radiation as you're doing, and I never miss a day of work. And I'm like, oh, well, sounds good. I'm pretty tough. And then I've heard other people describe this therapy as utter horror. So, I don't know. So anyway, I may be too sick or in too much pain to actually work at the CCFR for a little while, or do podcasts or whatever. I may have, blisters forming here or whatever. I may not be able to talk because of, basically it's the worst sunburn that you could ever experience on the outside of your neck and on the inside of your throat. That's how a lot of people describe it, right? So that stops you. Plus you end up with a bunch of other side effects. You can get lymphedema, where you have big lymph nodes swelling up, and like these ones are swollen. But you can have them in other areas. You can have osteoradionecrosis, where your bones are, they're being killed by the radiation. You can have dental issues. You can have trismus, where you get lockjaw. You can't open your mouth anymore. You can have swallowing issues that prevent you from eating, or the pain can prevent you from eating. So you can have some pretty dramatic weight loss, and then you'll have to be on a feeding tube where they poke a hole right through the side of you into your stomach. I'm trying to avoid that. So I'm bulking up. I'm eating everything I can to gain all this weight to fool the nutritionist into letting me lose a bunch of weight through this and not stick a feeding tube in me. I don't want it. there's a lot of things that can go wrong with you. And so anyway, I'm not going to lose any hair or nothing, which is great. Maybe a little bit of my beard down here, which is not going to make any difference, but I may miss some time, and it may be a little bit longer before you see any podcasts. So what I'm trying to do is make things at the CCFR run the same as they normally run. I'm setting up Staffer Steve to be able to do the podcast, or at least assemble a podcast that looks similar to this one, and Tracey will do it, and then she'll bring on some guests and make it a little bit more fun. Hopefully I'm doing well enough that I can still do podcasts, and I'm just giving you a heads up that I might look a little bit different, depending. Maybe I'll tolerate this thing fine, and this will be an afterthought. I hope so. But the worst case scenario is, apparently, after about 2 weeks of radiotherapy, that's when the toxic side effects start happening. So that gives me another week. Apparently your side effects peak 2 weeks after you stop. So I'm doing 6 weeks, 5 days a week, and 1 day I get 2 treatments. So 35 treatments of radiation, and then 2 weeks after that. So not 6 weeks from now, it'll be 5 weeks from now plus 2 weeks. So 7 weeks, I'll be at the peak of my side effects. And that could be even speech issues. We'll see. And then apparently they start waning. It takes about 2-3 months for them to all go away, for you to start feeling like yourself again. But anyway, I'm just letting you know kind of what I'm in for. And if I'm gone or whatever, or I look different, you'll know why. All right. So I'd rather that, as much as I like to keep my private life private, I'd rather that than have a bunch of rumors circulating around. And if you're wondering about my chances, I have about an 80% chance of being alive in 5 years. So those are pretty good. If it comes back, it's not so good. You got about a 30% chance of being alive in 2 years. So hopefully everything gets done. I'm going to be looking into this immunotherapy thing, and hopefully do that. And that should increase my chances. And hopefully I'll never have to deal with this again. But anyway, like I say, I'm not a big fan of revealing my personal stuff, nor do I think that, you should have to listen to that stuff during a podcast. You want to hear about the CCFR. But anyway, I just thought I'd have to tell you about it because things might be getting weird soon. All right. Okay, let's move on. So the next thing I want to talk about is the new recruitment program contest invented and implemented by our friend at the CCFR, Staffer Steve. One of the greatest staffers to ever work in any gun lobby in the world, Staffer Steve, always working his butt off to help us be able to do the big things that we do. So anyway, I'm going to share this with you. Hang on. Okay, I'm going to read this through. Steve sent me this. I said, can you write me up something to help me out? And he wrote this up. These notes are meant for me to create something. So sorry, Steve, that I'm showing them, but it is what it is. There's nothing bad on here. All right, I'm going to read this as quickly as I can. We have a brand new recruitment contest, which started on August the 5th because it was already running. I just didn't announce it in time for obvious reasons. And it runs till the end of December this year. Here's how it works. If you have an active membership with the CCFR, you also have a member account on our website. If you've never logged into your member account, you can find all the instructions by going to our website and clicking on the member login button. Once you've logged in, you'll see your unique recruitment link. You can share this link however you want with your friends, your family, your buddies at the range. For each person who visits our website through your unique link and either buys a membership or makes a donation, you'll receive 1 entry into the contest. Each person you recruit will also receive 1 entry. There's no limit on how many entries you can receive. It all depends on how many people you can recruit by the end of the year. If you'd like some competition, you can also opt into our recruitment leaderboard from your account and see how your recruitment efforts compare to other members. We'll be doing 5 draws at the end of the contest period for the following prize packages: a Canuck Engage Realtree Timber 12-gauge shotgun plus a CCFR prize pack, a GSG 16. I have 2 of those. They're pretty decent little rifles. They're a lot of fun. And additional magazines and a CCFR prize pack, a Maple Ridge Armory MRA Renegade rifle, Canadian edition in 223 Wild plus a CCFR prize pack. That's a cool rifle. Thank you, Maple Ridge Armory, for that, by the way. A customized 9mm handgun. We'll have to reveal what the model is later, plus a CCFR prize pack. You also have a choice between a free PAL RPO course and a 1-year membership at a shooting range local to the winner of this prize to a maximum of $800 combined value, or a gift certificate store credit of $800 at a CCFR business member of the winner's choice. Okay, you got 6 months to redeem that. You can, people often say, okay, well, this is cool. People often say that they wish that we had one big organization to represent Canadian gun owners. Now we've given you a tool to help make that a reality. If every member got at least one person to join the CCFR, that would make a huge difference in terms of our capability to do the kinds of projects that we want to do on your behalf. So there's a screenshot of the members area, what that looks like. And there's a link, and I'll put that in the description box below. And that way you can click there, and get over to there to get going on that. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about that before, right? One big organization, an organization that is sophisticated, has great messaging, interacts with government effectively, and has the resources that when they say they're going to do something, it's big, it's impactful, and they're going to do it, right? That's really important, right? Because it's one thing to talk about heavy lifting, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that, but in a rhetorical manner, like, oh, and we're interested in changing this and that. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything. What means something is that you go to the website and you see a list of stuff that you've done for people in return for their support and their trust. That's the most important thing. I'm from the private sector, right? In private sector, it's like either you get results or you're down the road, right? So that's, for better or worse, that's what I brought to the CCFR. Maybe not always the favorite person with all employees with that ideology, but we need to get work done, and we need to do things. We need to try everything so that at least at the end of the day, we can say, you know what? We never got caught in the trap of talking about doing stuff. We did it. We did everything we possibly could, and we still lost. That it is what it is. Or we did everything we possibly could, and finally we hit on one or two things that made the difference, and we won. Or we just kept possession of our firearms, right? The ability to own and use firearms. So that's really what it's all about. And any help that you can give the CCFR means that we can do even bigger and better things. So, and one of the biggest things that we're going to talk about is coming up with Wilson, which is our election campaign, and it's huge. And there's a part that all of you can play in that as well. All right, I think I covered what I wanted to cover. I'm going to bring on Wilson right now. Stand by. All right, on Skype we've got Wilson. Wilson,
Giltaka! Here we are.
Here we are. How's it going?
It's going really good, actually. Busy, crazy. It's like 42 degrees here in Ottawa, so yeah, it's pretty sticky, but yeah, it's going okay. Swamped, busy.
Yeah,
good.
It's a little bit too busy right now, but
yeah,
everything's on the line right now. This is it.
Well, this is it. This is what we're doing, so we're doing it.
This is the big show. Okay. So first thing we need to talk about is what the CCFR's election campaign is going to be. And now we're going to reveal basically all of it.
Yeah. So as people may remember, back in the last election in 2019, of course, we rented the giant RV and had it wrapped. And we didn't call it door knocking. We called it door kicking. And of course, we got the infamous Bill Blair video, which made the entire trip worthwhile amongst everything else we did. This year, situation's a little bit different. We're going to try something completely different, but still boots to the ground. In fact, we're going to involve a lot more people. We're going to involve you. If you're watching this right now, you can get involved. So the idea is, we've got this beautiful brochure here that tells you all about the CCFR, the wonderful things that we do, the types of projects we're working on, the types of people we are, and the things we believe in. And, you and I have been sort of going back and forth about what if we had a similar type brochure to this that was like a Meet Your Liberal Team pamphlet. And within it, it would have all the awful, terrible things that this government has done to Canadians, not just the gun community. There's a lot of stuff there that's gone on. It would, of course, would be all fact-checked. It would have a QR code that people could scan to go to a website and, access all the information and data to back this up. Everything in it would be true, but extremely damaging, of course, right? And then we would go to battleground ridings. Of course, a lot of those are in the GTA, but there are some in other places. And I would gather up a big volunteer team to come and help me. And we do our own style of door knocking and introduce Canadians to the real Liberal team and show them what another 4 years of Liberal future looks like for them.
Yes, absolutely. Now, so what the intent is we want to distribute, we want to break over 100,000 of these pamphlets. We will print as many as we can distribute. So just again, reiterating what you said, basically what we're doing is we are going to pick battleground ridings across the country. We're going to assemble teams of, and it doesn't have to be just CCFR field officers. It doesn't even have to be just CCFR members, just gun owners that want to stop this Liberal government. If they get elected again, we're done. We're finished. It's over. So, and what we've been saying for 6 years, 7 years almost, is that in Canada, the way that our system works, the only way to get your gun rights or privileges, however we want to look at them, you know, I consider them rights. The only way to safeguard them or to get them back is to elect a friendly government that's willing to take the risk and give those rights back to you. So we can help as a CCFR by doing public relations and providing tools so that people can realize that they're being manipulated, which they have been from day one, especially by the Liberals. But we also have to, the only way to actually get those rights is to get a friendly government and at least a minority to repeal the gun ban and a majority to get rid of C-71 and just to make life normal for us, at least for another 4 years. So what is it all about to get your gun rights back? It's right now. And that's our plan. So as I mentioned in a previous podcast, I'm going to be asking you to dedicate a day or two of your life to come and help distribute these pamphlets to every freestanding residential address in all of these ridings. It's a huge undertaking, but we think that we can do it.
That's right. And you know, it kind of goes with the history of the CCFR is we've always sort of had advocacy through education. And I think the problem here is that a lot of Canadians in general they just don't know, right? When you say, hey, do you support a gun ban on assaulty weapons? They're like, oh yeah, for sure, you don't need that stuff, right? And they're not thinking critically. So this project is literally boots to the ground communications with Canadian voters, not just about gun stuff, but about all kinds of stuff. And at the same time, we'll be running, you know, we can't get to every door of every Canadian. It's just literally physically impossible. But we're also going to have some other advertising going on as well. I know there's been a lot of anti-gun commercials on television and radio. I'm 90% through a deal with Bell Media to do the same. Of course, we don't have $2.2 million like the federal government has to attack gun owners with. However, we're gonna do a really robust, reasonable, impressive campaign alongside of this, and that, of course, will run throughout the duration of the election. So, whether it's printed material that we're going to put directly into the hands of Canadian voters, or an audio or video message that they will see on TV and radio, we're going to try and speak to as many Canadians as possible. And yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. So we've got a television and radio campaign, hopefully, depending how bad they want us to water down our message. That's always the fight with these people. The government can say anything, especially, you know, 3 lies in a row in their stuff. But when it comes to us, we can't even oppose any of it, right? So
yeah, well, I gave them kind of an original message, and then their legal team comes back and says, okay, this part where you say that, you know, it was something about attacking law-abiding gun owners. They sort of wanted me to be specific. So, you know, then they come back to me with the legal team, and I got to provide all this evidence to back up what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, the message that gets out there, it's been checked, back-checked, fact-checked, everything checked, right? So, so far, I complained that last time our message had to get too watered down, and that I didn't find that the Liberal ad under the guise of the Government of Canada PSA, that it wasn't exactly factual either. And yet there it is on my television. So, yeah, so he's come back to me. He's willing to work with me, and I'm going to push him way further than I did before. So,
yeah. Yeah, well, that's so anyway, that advertising is secondary. And just to kind of get into the details just a little bit, I know this podcast is going to run long because we had so much to talk about, but when you do advertising at 15 seconds or 30 seconds at a time, it's very, very difficult to influence anybody for anything, right? Especially when you have a government that's allowed to use the most inflammatory, rhetorical, incorrect, untrue, manipulative messaging. And it's aimed at the people that would vote liberal, right? Which is like, assault weapons are bad. You know, the conservatives want to let everyone have assault weapons. They're like, oh my God, the conservatives must be the worst people in the world. And people that that kind of messaging appeals to, you can't reach them, right? Because it's the government talking. So the government versus the gun lobby, right? So people will automatically, you know, but when it comes to us being able to spread our information to every freestanding residential address in a battleground riding, that is the most powerful thing that we could ever do, with a full color fact check, referenced by a website, so you can check in. You know, if people are like, is it true? Did Justin Trudeau, is he the only prime minister in Canadian history to ever be found guilty of ethics violations? Yeah, it's true. And here's the link, you can check it. And so the booklet itself is going to be really appealing, full color, and just shows all of the damage that the Liberals have done. And it's not even about guns. There may be maybe one mention about what they've done to gun owners in there, because it's not about, this isn't about, you know, educating Canadians. It's about educating Canadians about the Liberal government. We need to stop the Liberals, or they will take everything that we have, and they'll use force to do it. So, you know, this is for all the marbles. So hopefully you can see the potential. You know, as CCFR members and supporters, you can see the potential of what we're doing. This could really move the needle, because now someone has a fully referenced book in their hand, you know, 16 pages worth of what the Liberals have done to destroy the country that they love. So, you know, there's nothing we won't do to save our guns, right?
There's literally nothing we won't do. I know. Yeah. I'm a little personally torn, because, of course, for those of you who follow me on social media, Summer comes home from a very long domestic deployment. She's been on since the spring. She comes home next Friday. I've got a ladies' day on the Saturday, and then probably within a week I'll be hitting the road to get this stuff done. But you know, maybe I can convince her to come along with me. I think this is vitally important above all else right now. This is what we have to do. We have a window of opportunity that's very short in this election writ, and we have to get it done. And I'm really looking forward to connecting with other supporters and gun owners and members, or just people who are really concerned about the direction the Liberals are taking us in, coming out and connecting with me. And it's I think this will be fun. We're gonna do our own style of door knocking.
Yeah. And so I guess the question is, when is this going to be ready? When are people going to have to step up and volunteer and meet up with you in the GTA or our field officers in other parts of the country where there's battleground ridings? The answer is, we're working on the booklet. It's not done yet. We have the material. We're working on the art part of it. It takes time, but the election period is not long. So I'm hoping to have it done, maybe print ready by Tuesday or Wednesday next week. If that's the case, then I'm sure we can get, 50 to 100,000 printed in another week from there, and then they'll get distributed. So that gives us maybe 2 weeks to arrange, coordinate who's going to be, commanding these armies of volunteers, and how we're going to get these onto the doorsteps of Canadians.
Absolutely.
That's the timeline. Yeah.
And I am going to rent a van, fill it full of these brochures, and I am going to head for Toronto. And you can watch on social media. We will be creating volunteer events for all of these, telling you where to come, what to bring, wear comfy shoes. Everything will be provided to you. I'll have water in the van. I'm gonna, if we can get a couple hours in every day in a riding, this is vitally important. So yeah, all of that will fall into place, and we'll make sure it's all well detailed and out to everybody, so they know how they can help, when they can help, and where they can help. So it's all coming out, and it'll be very, very organized.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys think that this is as big a campaign as we think it is. I mean, you can't get all that material in 30 seconds on an ad, and you can't get it onto a billboard either. But when you give somebody a full color book that looks like infographics on every page, 16 pages long, it's a powerful tool. So yeah, we're doing everything we possibly can. All right, next thing we should need to talk about is the CPC came out with their election platform. It looks very nice. They had a gun section to that, right? A gun policy, a firearm policy, and it was largely really good.
Yeah, so largely really good. Actually, I was pretty impressed with the policy, like the policy document itself. O'Toole put it out as sort of a magazine, and he's on the cover in a simple black T-shirt. Like, I don't know, it was just I found it appealing. He just looks like a regular guy that you can trust. Of course, you get out to, I think it was page 80 in the PDF, and there's the section on safer communities. I'm not going to read it all out because it's there. You can go to the website, CCFR. I wrote a story about it and I included the PDF in there so you can get a link to it. But I'm just going to review a couple of the main points that would be of great interest to gun owners. So, of course, since the race for leadership, O'Toole has made the following commitments: that he would repeal C-71 in its entirety. I think that's a solid move. It's terrible legislation. We've got to start focusing on criminals, or the country's going to fall apart. He also committed to repeal the OIC gun ban. So this was the huge May 1 ban that targeted only legal gun owners and their legally acquired firearms at an enormous cost to taxpayers, which of course they still haven't figured out what they're doing, how they're doing it, or who's paying for it other than taxpayers. So that's an essential part, is to repeal that gun ban. He's also committed, he's long said this actually, and it went a little further than I originally thought he would, but basically in a complete overhaul of the Firearms Act. And, I think he's right here. A rewrite and a modernization is in order. It's so convoluted and complicated. I don't know how anybody really understands it. I mean, we're experts and I've constantly got my nose in it trying to figure it out, and it's been amended so many times. I think just a modern, clear, concise rewrite is exactly what we need. And of course, then you can refocus some of the things within it. There was a lot in there about tackling gang violence. So that doesn't really affect our community, other than that's the direction we should be going in. He had some measures to target the illicit use of firearms in aggravated violent offenses. So I had a few people ask me about that. Well, what do you mean they can take my guns if I get some sort of charge? It would only be for aggravated violent offenses. So, and then of course, if the charges were dropped or you were found not guilty, you'd get your guns back. And then there was a lot about investments in anti-gang law enforcement units and more border controls, which are two things that I've supported. I'm not a big, super fun the police girl. However, the gang violence in cities across the country is raging on totally unabated, and it's very difficult to prevent if you don't have enough boots to the ground, right? So I think some investments in that, as well as he also had some great investments that he wants to make in community organizations that are sort of the groups that work in the roots of violence, work right in the communities with at-risk youth. And we've been begging for that all along. Groups like Marcel Wilson's One by One movement would probably be a perfect example of that. There was some repetition on measures permitting mental health practitioners to intervene in and with law enforcement. That already all exists. I spoke with Dr. Kaylin Langman about it. They already have that. So I think it's just, that's just sort of bait and fodder that's put in there. And then there's a part that's a little bit sticky, and I'll read this part to you. It says, amending the Firearms Act so that an individual who, on 3 separate occasions during a calendar year, transfers a firearm for financial consideration must have a firearms business license. So immediately, we had spoken about this in consultations prior to the release of the platform, and I explained that the problem with this is that's not a very high number. Like, I think people who aren't in our community and aren't gun owners, they wouldn't understand that it's probably not a big deal for, the majority or even a lot of gun owners to sell 3 guns over a period of a year. I think of, Colin will pick up a 22, doesn't really like it, sells it, maybe buys a shotgun. Like, we all do that, right? So I was a little bit sticky about that. But what's interesting is if you actually look at the wording, it says 3 separate occasions during a calendar year. So it's not referring to individual firearms. It's not a limit on the number of guns you can sell. It's on the number of times you can sell them, which makes even less sense if the idea here was to prevent straw purchasing, which of course is a very rare phenomenon in Canada. But basically, at the end of the day, I could come over to you and sell 200 firearms at a time, twice a year, but I can't sell one shotgun 3 individual times over that same calendar year, if that makes sense. So anyways, we've gone back and forth over it. I think, at the end of the day, when you're writing policy, you've got a lot of these people on policy teams and these, I call them political nerds and political junkies giving their advice. They form a policy. Policy is not legislation. Policy is sort of their ideas, whether or not they're followed through with legislation. Of course, once you get to that stage, then you really start consulting with experts and having legal experts and lawyers and police and everybody dig into what it is you're trying to do and flesh it out and see if it's any good. And this is obviously no good. So although I don't like it and I, raised all kinds of hell over it, I personally wouldn't be overly shocked to see this part of the policy either be altered, changed, dropped, or thrown in the garbage.
Yeah,
So,
and it probably won't ever get implemented, even if they got a majority government, because
No.
they'd have to look deeper into the details. So, they're trying to make a gesture that they are serious about dealing with straw purchasing, which of course is a heinous crime, because when you're a licensed individual, you should be able to be trusted, and 99.99993% of firearm owners don't ever engage in straw purchasing. And there were already laws on the books, and there are today for firearms trafficking, oddly enough, which were turned into hybrid offenses by the Liberals in Bill C-75, right? So if I'm a licensed gun owner, firearm trafficker, they can now proceed on a summary conviction with me. So anyway, it's
crazy.
I'm not too worried about that stuff.
Overall, I gotta say, though, I listed those measures out. If you can't remember everything I said, don't worry, go to the CCFR website. It's all right there in a nice, easy to read web story. You don't have to dig through pages of documents to find it. But at the end of the day, overall, this is a really good policy with tangible, positive measures for gun owners. And I really like, conservatives are always kind of tough on crime people. But at the same time, I think we need to start investing in the root causes, investing in at-risk youth. I think it's a very balanced policy. And I think, except for a little bit of sticky parts, I think it's something that I can work with. And I support it.
Yeah. So last thing I'm going to say about this, because we're running long, but so some people might be like, well, I want, this, that, or the other thing. I want my full autos. There's nothing in here about full autos. We can be fairly frustrated as a community. But number one, if the conservatives get a minority government, you're going to get all your guns back that were banned. Okay, so that's huge. Bill C-71 will be repealed, so you'll be able to take your gun to a gunsmith without having to call and get a letter from the government to say, yeah, you know what, I know you got the gun, I know you can go to the range and back, but now you're safe to go to the gunsmith. I mean, how ridiculous.
Right.
So you're going to get those things, but a lot of people don't realize, I'm not going to get into details here, but the simplified classification system, like a rewrite of the Firearms Act, for sure, make it make sense. Make it evidence-based, right? It'd be a revolution in Canada that we're going to start actually doing evidence-based lawmaking, right? But the simplified classification system is a big deal. So
it's a big deal. People
if we
don't
get that,
realize how big it is.
most people don't understand what that is, and it's a really big deal for gun owners and a huge benefit, probably the biggest thing to ever happen to you in this generation. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. All right. Last thing, the neon sign draw. Now, as I explained in the beginning of the podcast, there's been some reasons why we've been a little late on things. My fault, I guess, more or less.
Not your fault, but
anyway, it's time to do that draw. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Super fun.
All right, I'm going to switch it over
so
here.
that's for this one right here.
Oh,
so
I'll come back. Hold
maybe
on.
not this particular one, but exactly like this. I will make sure I plug it in and make sure it's all working before I send it to you. But this is super great. And I don't know if you guys can see, you get a little flicker with it. probably won't show well on my video, but you've got different brightness levels. Like, it's really nice. It would look good in anybody's gun room, man cave, lady lair, whatever.
Yeah, that sign itself is still 2 feet wide. It's not small.
Yes, it is not small. I'm sitting about 3 feet in front of it. So yeah.
It's a great sign. It's a great one.
Yeah.
All right, let's draw for this thing. So here's our list, and we're gonna count the rows. So row 1 through 2326.
2326.
All right. So here's random.org 1 through 2326. All right, here we go.
Here we go.
2197.
Ooh, a latecomer.
2197.
See who's on 2197.
It's Kyle. I'm just going to take this off from Grand Prairie, Alberta, and I'll take this off and just so I don't expose everybody's last name. Let me get this going again here. All right, it is Kyle Warner. Congratulations, Kyle.
Warner.
Yeah, from Grand Prairie, Alberta. So we'll get that sign out to you, Kyle. And
Awesome.
now the latest, again, right? I've had some issues I've had to deal with that's taken up a lot of time and focus, but we're gonna draw for a new sign. And what is the sign that we're drawing for now?
We're gonna do a CCFR. Let me try again.
I should know
We're
this.
going to do a CCFR radio sign.
That's right. We
sign.
already announced that. That's right. So it's the big sign behind me here, and so that one's still going. I believe that one. So just bear with us. I might be a little bit late doing that draw. If not, if I can't do it for whatever reason, then Tracey will do it. I'm making some arrangements to see if I can get Tracey to do the podcast while I'm busy on other things. But anyway, congratulations, Kyle, and
Awesome.
enjoy your new CCFR sign.
Super fun.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our list. We should wrap it up. It's been quite a while, so I appreciate the update.
Okay, take care, and you have a great weekend, everyone.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Tracey, for all the work. And I know that Tracey's flying today because you're seeing this on Friday. She's flying today to Calgary for the other half of the Gunny Girl calendar shoot. She's been going nonstop. So I appreciate all the extra work that Wilson's been doing and everyone else at the CCFR. It's been a real group effort, and we're working as hard as we possibly can for you. One thing I have to address before I say the final comments, and if there's heat over this comment, I'll take it. So if you want to just spew hate at somebody, you can spew it at me. That's okay. Fill up the comments if that's what you need to do. It's all right. Now, as you guys know, I don't like to tell anybody how to vote. Okay. And the reason why I'm talking about this now is I don't know if I'm going to be available towards election day, right? So we always have this big fight, even in the CCFR Facebook group, everywhere, about the other right-wing parties, the smaller ones, the ones that don't have any sitting MPs at all, versus the CPC. Okay, so here's the deal, and here's the way. This is my opinion. So you can look at my opinion and say, yeah, I agree. You can agree somewhat, or you can disagree with my opinion. That's okay. So I'm not a cheerleader for the Conservative Party of Canada. We work with the CPC. We do everything we can with the CPC because they are the only federal party that has ever, right-wing party that has ever held power, basically, other than on the left wing, which is Liberals. Those are the only two political parties that have ever held a majority government or a minority government in Canadian history. Those are the only two, okay? No one else has even come close. You know, I guess the closest was the NDP for a while, right? They actually became the official opposition a couple of elections ago, okay? That's as close as it's ever gotten. So I don't like everything that the CPC is. I don't like all of their policies. I wish they were stronger on some and kept their nose out of others, right? I like smaller government. I want government out of my life, right? But they are the only center-right party that is in a position to win. And that's indisputable, right? I mean, I think in our time right now, we all get so wound up with ideology and talking points and just like the talking points, in other words, lies most times, right? Just like, trying to convince people by saying, outlandish stuff. The real true fact is they're the only party that's in a position to win. And in fact, we've never had another right-wing party that held a seat in the House of Commons in the last 10 years for sure, right? I don't know. I haven't looked far enough back. But it's just been CPC and then all these left-wing people, okay? They're the only party that has a chance to win. And that's just the truth. So if you want to hate somebody, you can hate me. And like I said, you can spam the comments and that's okay. I won't even delete any of that stuff. Okay, but that's how I'm voting. I'm voting for the CPC, warts and all. And the reason why I'm doing that is that in our system, that is the only way to save your guns. It's the only way. In the British parliamentary system is you need a minority or a majority government. There's no other way to do it, right? We can sue the government and we might get a favorable ruling that might be used later for certain things to say, well, this case should go this way because previously in the Ccfr versus Canada et al., Ccfr et al. Versus Canada, the judge said this. Like you can get some stuff out of that, or we can get a temporary win, like the repealing of the OIC. But that OIC can be repealed by a minority government that's conservative, right? Just like that. And you get your guns back. So, and then the conservatives also have that thing that I mentioned. I don't want to make too big of a deal about it, but the simplified classification system, if that were to happen, that would be the biggest thing to happen to gun owners, the biggest improvement in our lives since the long gun registry was repealed, okay? If you don't know how the simplified classification system works, then look into it. So really, really important. Just makes your life really simple. You want to classify a firearm? Get a tape measure. Done. And everybody knows what they have. So easy, right? And then there's and there's a lot to go along with that too. A lot more that happens. So, does the CPC have the best firearms platform? No. But I need a party that's going to win. Okay. So, and if you look at somebody like the Green Party, it's taken them, 20 years to get 3 seats? They're not even holding the balance of power right now. So again, this is the reality. I know why there's other parties. I want to encourage them. But from my perspective, we need a majority or a minority CPC government to stop the bleeding, because it's not only about guns either, right? There's a $400 billion deficit, which is unimaginable, okay? That's the country is bleeding out, like bleeding to death. And it's got to stop. And 30% of the population is brainwashed. They're brainwashed. So we need to pull all in the same direction. Once you get the country stabilized, then yeah, let's develop some other alternatives. And I'm totally in favor of that. And I think there needs to be, but they have to be at a point in their development where they have a chance to win. Okay. I'm not against third parties or, extra new right-wing parties, but they have to be in a position where they have a chance to win. This election isn't the time for experimentation. We lost 8 seats in the last election. Not guaranteed, because not all of the PPC voters would have voted CPC, right? And I acknowledge that entirely. But if you just look at the vote count, if you took those votes and gave them to the CPC, they would have had 8 more seats. 8 seats is enough to swing a minority to a majority, or even make somebody the official opposition rather than a minority government, okay? So it's really, really important that we all pull in the same direction, at least in this election. Okay, just my opinion. You don't have to do it. Just consider it. That's all I'm asking. All right. Okay, that's it for episode 97. If you want the link for the recruitment contest, I'm going to put that in the description box below. If you want the Light Up 2021 contest link, it's in the the neon sign contest. That's in the box below as well, that link. Thanks so much for all your support. Hopefully I will see you in the near future. And yeah, good luck to us all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.